Hey Sam, hello Ramesh, hi David, good evening to you all. Sam asks, can you review some of the Russian possibilities? What do you mean by that, Sam? Around Russian possibilities? I mean, right now, from a investment perspective, Russia has been cut off from the rest of the world. I mean, if you really look at what's been happening to ruble versus, let's say, dollar chart. I'm just trying to pull the chart out. See if we can get this chart. Ruble is less than a cent now. I mean, it's fallen to the ground. Number two, a lot of companies, and I'm going to talk a little more about this kind of corporate cancel culture, or the cancel wave that's happening around, right? On with a lot of Russian companies. Everyone is trying to cut off their ties with anything that has to do with Russia. Even if that matters, that the company that is cutting ties to Russia have to suffer losses, they are doing it. For example, BP, British Petroleum, they decided to sell off their stake in Rosneft. And that's how, if I remember, I think that is BP Rosneft. They are trying to exit their shareholding. They own close to 20% of Rosneft, and then they told that, we're going to exit this. A bigger question is, if you're exiting this, who's going to buy from you? Right? Most of the Western world is kind of consider Russia as a pariah based on what's happening in Ukraine, and don't want to touch anything that has to do with Russia. So if BP wants to exit it, they will basically have to sell it at a dirt cheap price. And if my reading is correct, they're gonna basically take a few $1 billion worth of charge for doing this. So anything really, Russia is not looking great. And I mean, that's why even if you look at, let's say, Russians ETF, and we'll get back to crypto as well. Oops, google.com finance. There is RSX. A few days ago, it was 25. And it's lost 75% of its value in, I would say, in 2 weeks, ever since this whole conflict has started. Right? The other one is, I think, TRUS. There's another ETF. I guess whichever you pick, but yeah, the site is not pretty in either case, right? But now you have to be really careful. I was looking at this, some of these ETFs today. The premium, especially around the options, and maybe we should save this discussion for our Saturday, where we talk about the stock, etc. But because you asked about Russia, let me just finish this. The premium on these Russian ETFs is huge. For a $5, say, if you take a contrarian view, saying, yeah, we know right now what's happening, but eventually a country like Russia, companies like Gazprom, Rosneft, all the big companies of Russia, they just won't disappear from the face of earth. And eventually, once this conflict is resolved, things will probably come back to normal. And if you want to take that bet today, a premium on a short put at $5, you could get close to $1.80. That means $1.80 is what? Close to 36% premium of your strike price. Right? The implied volatility for, let's say, April options is like 400%. But yeah, it's a risk. That's a risk you have to take, a $5 risk. But, and market understands that these are very risky. No one wants to touch anything that has to do with Russia. So that's on the general stock on the ETF side. On the crypto side, yeah, we did see a wave of sympathy, and cryptos. I'm going to talk about that. I mean, that have a open. I want to actually discuss here with you guys on what's your thoughts are around crypto and the war. You know, what's happening with the war economy, all that. But we did see a little bit move up, a positive reaction in the crypto world after this war, when Ukraine reached out and started accepting donations. So let's talk about that topic, and then we can come back to what else we want to talk about. So crypto donations was in use.
Vivid.
Yes, Sam.
May I speak?
Sure.
If I lose all my money from all my investments last year, I'm going to lose $17,000. So I don't risk.
Yeah, I mean, so the fact that you can get 36% as an option premium for selling a $5 put, you can size the position accordingly. So if that's why the risk premium is so high. But that is okay if you want to look into that, and if your understanding is, come on, these wars will be, the world is not going to come to an end. The things will get over with this war, and the big companies will continue to survive. Yandex is the biggest search engine, right? In Russia hasn't done good. There are Gazprom. There are a lot of energy companies. Russia is still a big supplier of commodities to the rest of the world. And if Russia will still survive as a country, maybe you want to take a bet, go ahead, but be careful about the risk. Right? And that's why the premium is so high. And again, right now, the Russian market has been closed for, now it's the 4th day. And the reason why the Russian stock market has been closed is because they don't want Russian investors to sell their securities, right? Central bank has jacked up the interest rate by 20%, right? Overnight after the sanctions were announced. And imagine if you are staying now, all the horrible things that are happening in Ukraine, the unwarranted attack and all that stuff. But also imagine on the other side, between these politics, it's a common citizen who get crushed, whose life gets messed up. Now imagine those Russians living in Russia who have nothing to do with the war. They get up in the morning and then they suddenly realize that their ruble has depreciated by 40%. You lose your purchasing power by 40% overnight. Now suddenly you are poorer. You can't buy the things that you were able to buy yesterday because now the ruble is worth less. And, God forbid, if you had a mortgage on your house, which was an adjustable rate mortgage, now central bank has raised the rates by 20% overnight. Now the people who are paying a mortgage will be wondering, should I pay the mortgage or should I eat? Okay. Apple has decided not to sell any iPhones. Disney had decided not to launch any movies. Right. UPS, FedEx have decided they're not going to ship anything. The biggest shipping company in the world, Maersk, decided they're not going to take any containers over to Russia. A lot of the companies are just canceling Russia out because of this. I mean, this is to put a pressure, all in right sense. But imagine if, as a citizen who have nothing to do with this war, and what they also have to go through it. I mean, the whole idea behind this is the life of the citizens becomes so difficult that they basically stand up against the administration and force the administration to change it, right? So that's what, but we'll see. But from a crypto perspective, I would say this whole stuff which is happening with Russia, especially taking Russian banks out of a SWIFT network, in the long term should work out nicely for crypto. Today, we understand it's a good, it's a right, I don't know, the right or wrong depends on individual view, but most of the Western world thinks that they did the right thing by sanctioning Russian banks from the SWIFT network so that they cannot transact with other banks in the world. Now imagine if I'm another country, if I'm China, or if I am some other big country, who today the Western world is on the side of that country. Today USA is my friend. What if tomorrow the USA doesn't stay to be my friend? I run a huge risk of depending my economy, if my economy is depending on dollar. This does send a signal to some of the other countries saying, because we have a hold on dollar, we could choke at any point of a time. So again, my thinking is maybe some of the countries will start their plans of de-dollarizing their economy, maybe looking at something else on which they can depend on and can use as a common currency that may not be controlled by any one big country. Doesn't matter. Today, that country is a benevolent country. Today, that country could be a democratic country. It is a generous country, wants to do good for the world. What if tomorrow that country changes? So I think this whole geopolitical and the economic impact that we are seeing could have made all these people, the bankers and the country heads to think through and start looking at a backups of around the US dollars. So that's at a really, really long term, is my opinion. In the short term, we did see that Ukraine government to fund this war. There are few ways in which any government will fund a war. Either you raise taxes on your citizens, right? Or you raise money by selling the bonds. US did that World War II. We raised money by selling war bonds. Ukraine did the same thing. They sold up some bonds to raise a few $100 million, I think $200 million or something around that. But what they did, which has happened for the first time in any country's history, is they also reached out to the rest of the world through Twitter by posting their crypto wallet address and saying, we request donations through crypto. Now imagine if I am an individual, right? I can't buy Ukraine bonds. But when Ukraine started to accept the crypto donations, 35,000 people, individuals, we don't know people because it's just a wallet addresses, could be institution or an individual, 35,000 individual wallet addresses contributed from across the world to donate some of these crypto coins to Ukraine, and they raised $35 million in a couple of days. So we did see that did give a little bit boost around the usage of this on around crypto economy, and that's why we saw, I think, Bitcoin. If you go back to look at what happened in the market last week, now it doesn't look really nice, but that's what it gave a boost last week. Earlier this week, when it jumped from just below 40 all the way up to 45, and now it is receding. But this was a little bit of a sympathy wave that we saw in crypto, when Ukraine was able to raise $35 million from individual donors, which in a traditional way, it would have been almost impossible to raise funds from individual donors which are spread across the world, right? If you're raising through bonds, you have to go through the whole, the process of selling the bonds, which is generally be bought over by high net worth, the institutional investors or the central banks of the other countries. I don't know which central bank will be willing to buy Ukraine bonds. But anyways, individual contributors, they don't have a ability to do it. But Ukraine tried something new. So that was a little positive from that perspective. And last I read was, I think they started accepting donations in Bitcoin, then Ethereum, and now more recently also in Dogecoin, etc. So I don't know, maybe the money, the overall donation could continue to increase. But I think from a long-term perspective, at least what happened, the cutting of Russia from SWIFT network and Ukraine raising funds through crypto should bode well, or at least a signal some good things around on the crypto overall. I don't know. I mean, that's my thinking. Could be wrong, but we'll have to see. You have any different opinion? Yeah, feel free to chime in. Similar to related to that, I was also thinking about, could Bitcoin monetary standard also rein in the war financing? Like I said, today, the traditional ways of financing the wars are you raise taxes, you sell, government will raise taxes, government will sell bonds, right? Or government can sponsor themselves, which is what like US government is doing, or many other governments do, is to print more money. In World War II, we did it by selling bonds. In Vietnam, we sponsored that by raising taxes. Now, politicians can't do anything. Bonds, if you're selling US Treasury bonds, rest of the world is not buying too much. That's why most of the bonds are being bought by Fed, our own Federal Reserve Bank. You can't raise taxes right now, because that's a politically, no government, no administration, whether blue or red, would want to take that action. So what's left? Print more money. And unfortunately, since 1970s, we moved out of the gold standard, so we can print whatever we want to. And we as a citizens don't even feel the pinch of any war financing. The reason us as a citizen, we have been so cut off or been so pulled away from the actions of our government when it comes to the war, that we have kind of just a passive, I would say, passive viewer of what our government is doing, because we are not directly impacted by it. Gone are the days when during the wars, there used to be a compulsory draft. Right? If one member of my family is drafted into war, I will think twice. Or I will call up my local government representatives and say, no, don't go for war against this country, because I feel the pain. We don't have that anymore. Governments are not raising taxes because they don't have to raise taxes to finance the war. So I don't feel the pain anymore. What governments are doing across the world, not just US, Germany does the same thing, is, print money and finance the war. When you print money, it is the future generations who will have to pay for it. I don't have to pay for it right now. It's a future generation who will have to start paying for it when, you know, the time comes of all these extra printing money and the loans that we have taken, the whole deficit financing. But I'm not bothered right now. So am I, you know, would I be picking up phone and crying and screaming to my government representative about why are we going for a war? Probably not, because I don't feel the pain right away. Right? So instead of the current monetary system, if you move to the Bitcoin monetary system, which you can't create or you can't print, maybe then the governments will have to figure out other ways to raise money, which will be, you know, raising taxes, and then they'll be a lot more careful. We could be a lot more careful in terms of spending on wars, etc. If that means that you have to raise taxes on your people, and that's never a popular mechanism, and could make our governments across the world think twice before they want to, you know, engage in wars for any reasons. So it was an interesting thought. I was going through it, and I don't know what you have to say, but I am. I got fascinated by thinking through this whole topic around, and the fact that wars don't impact us or don't hurt us emotionally as much as it used to, you know, a few decades earlier. Yeah, it's, if we pay, we look at the news on what's happening, but beyond that, not enough to call up my senators or representatives and you know, express my anguish on it. Sam says corporations are leaving Russia because 150 million folks, 11th largest economy, not worth it. Yeah, it's not the biggest economy. That's true. But 11th largest is not too small. But yeah, corporates understand that there is a lot more risk around reputation than what it is to gain from Russia right now. But let's understand, Russia comes under emerging markets, right? Russia, Brazil, India, they come under emerging markets. And today, still it is 11, but it was growing at a faster pace than the rest of the developed markets. There hasn't been much growth in economy in developed markets, but these are the emerging markets where we have seen a lot of growth. But today, right now, there's too much of a reputation risk for any of these corporates. So I understand, you know, why corporates are right now exiting Russia, but they've been very careful in terms of their communication. The saying, we are putting a pause and not completely canceling it. So if we are putting a pause, that stuff can be restarted anytime. Fire started at nuclear plant during the day. I saw that. I think around 5 o'clock is when there was an attack on a nuclear power plant in Ukraine. It was engulfed in fire. Really bad stuff. And you know, if this doesn't come under control, the damage could be, and these are again the guesstimates, could be 10x than what happened during the Chernobyl incident. It's going to be a horrible, horrible tragedy. Anyway, so that's around the cryptos and the thoughts on what's happening on Russia. And a little bit, sorry, we went a little bit more philosophical around the crypto economy and war financing. But the topic is fascinating for me. Cool. All right, what else we want to look at? I also had some thoughts on our NFTs. NFTs were in news this week. Not that it's not in news. Hasn't been in news for some time, but this week looks like the whole narrative around NFTs is now slowly changing, which is what we talked about that a while ago. This is so much hype, and when this hype, you know, some point of a time, this hype will come down. So there have been questions around NFTs. What are these NFTs? Are these a piece of art? I agree, but are these considered, if you buy an NFT, you become a member of an exclusive community? Some people think so. Are NFTs a vehicle for money laundering? Very much possible. I mean, it is very easy to launder money through NFTs. Same way it is easy to launder money through art. Now, NFT being a digital art. And I'm sure many of these NFTs that we are seeing, which are getting ridiculously priced, some of them probably are being used for laundering your money, right? Or converting your the money that you've hidden from IRS, converting that into a white money. Say if I have a money that I haven't never declared, I could very well create an NFT, use an unhosted wallet, buy that NFT from myself by paying through those cryptos, and then voila, I got a legal. I converted that undeclared money as a legal receipt for selling my NFT. But that's why there is now, I think, the SECs and other law agencies, now they're starting to look at this whole NFT and what's happening on NFT really carefully now, all the law enforcement. Because all this, between all the hype, between all the the genuine artists who are getting paid, there could be many who are just using this path as to launder or convert their undeclared money into, basically cleaning it up. And I think this was again a report. Could NFTs be considered as a security? That's a huge pain if SEC eventually, digs deeper and say, oh, some of the, and there are some projects who raise money by selling NFTs. Now, if those projects are not sufficiently decentralized, if those projects are headed by in a corporate-like structure, it could very well be considered as NFTs, could be considered as a way to do fundraising. And if you put it into this Howey's test, could pass. If it passes as the Howey test, can be considered a security, then all those projects could be in trouble. Again, I don't know which way it will go, but SEC has started to look at now. So in 2017, it was ICOs. And as SEC was looking at all the ICOs project to figure out which were raising as a security, which may not be, which are not definitely could not come under security and could get a pass. Like Ethereum, they got a pass. But there are a few projects who raised tons of money, like Telegram was one of them, raised around $4 billion, right? There were other projects who raised a few million or $100 million. Then SEC basically considered them as security and have been going behind those projects. Now, I think they started looking at, okay, ICOs are done. What's next happening on the crypto? NFTs. Those NFTs have gone through the roof for past 1 year. And now they're looking at if anything fishy happening around NFTs in terms of raising money. So be careful. Lastly there are a lot of scams happening around on NFTs. Whenever there is an easy money to be made, wherever there is a lot of a hype, doesn't matter whether it's a traditional economy, the traditional stock, or we are talking about crypto side. There will always be people who will try to scam those investors who are trying to look for making some quick bucks. So an interesting one, looks like there was $70 million worth of fundraise was done to mint some new Pixelmon NFTs. And these were on OpenSea. And then the folks who contributed to this, it just blew up on Twitter. I'm like saying, what the heck? You did a $70 million mint, and the artwork that you gave us was such a crappy one. So interesting to go through this story. That is why you got to, if anyone's trying to get into NFT, be very, very careful. What's the value proposition that you're buying into? Now this one, then the founder himself came and said, this is unacceptable, right? So this was the NFTs created and minted. And the whole idea of these NFTs was that these could be used in the game that they're going to build later. So when the game launches, the players will be able to catch those Pixelmons and collect them as more NFTs in the open world, role-playing games, whenever those games come out. The first collection which they minted are the Genesis Collectibles. Those no one can catch from you, right? And then this is what I was talking about. You can get some exclusive stuff. But each of these NFTs were minimum started at 3 ETH, which is around $8,000. And what the users got was like stuff like this. Right? So some users they raised 70 million and we got like things like these. We got rugged. There are a lot of rug pull products in this space as well. What else? Even some of them even found out that these were some stock images from Unity platform. So if you have been part of our Saturday discussion, Unity is a company that provides a platform for building games, right? Those video games. There are two major platforms in the world, Unity and Epic Games, which provide platform for anyone to build the games. Now, the user found out that this particular project just siphoned these images from Unity. So yeah, there is right now, anyone and everyone is trying to encash on the popularity of gaming and NFTs. So if you are interested in any of such projects, be careful. You gotta do your own due diligence on this one. And no wonder, along with the rest of the crypto, even the NFT is now starting to cool down a little bit. It's the first time since October that month-on-month NFT buyers, they actually have dropped. Even the search volume has fallen significantly too. I can understand buyers drop. It's high growth tech companies. There's a kind of a winter happening on the high growth tech companies in the stock market. Crypto has been just on the sideways, except if we just ignore what happened in this week, it's been pretty much on the sideways for past many months. So the sales is down like 40% month on month. So eventually, and I'm not at all surprised by this. Go back and look some previous recording. This stuff will cool off whenever we have an irrespective, whichever market, whenever we have such a hyped up stuff, some part of a time, this will cool down. The scammers, the hyped projects, those who were just riding the wave, will get washed out. The real use cases will then emerge. I haven't seen many real world use cases of NFTs just yet. The reason why I was so excited about the NFT as a tech is around its use cases in identity, its use cases in let's say we could digitize my house deed, my and then I don't need to need a mortgage company or a house recorder, pay fees for recording my house in the county and all that stuff. NFTs could be used in recording my credentials. NFTs could be used to record my medical records on which only me and only I have access to it, and only I can determine whom I should open access to it. Haven't seen many projects around those real world use cases. All we have been seeing for last 1.5 years, ever since this whole NFT phenomena came in, a lot of celebrities came in, is monkey pictures, arts, and every celebrity trying to launch their own NFT for whatever it is worth. Yeah, some good projects have come in. There are artists who would have never been able to generate any funds because they don't have access or they can't break into the whole nexus of galleries and the artists and the galleries and how the way they operate. Yeah, for them it worked out good, but they are far and few. Majority of the stuff has been around, you create this Bored Ape Yachts Club, or you create those kind of NFTs. Even some individuals are creating their own NFTs. And I'm not even talking about celebrities. I know of some of some of my friend who created NFT, because they are all trying to encash the craze of NFT. Eventually things will, I'm still very bullish on the technology, just that the use of the technology right now hasn't been great, but I guess that happened with every tech. You'll figure out the use which excite people. May not be the best use case right now, but if buying an image is could get in 100 millions of people's knowledgeable NFT, the real use cases will emerge, and we'll see that. Ramesh says another story like SPAC. Yeah, it had its day. May continue. Who knows how long will it continue? But at least now we have seen that it's slightly started to cool down, and we'll see. I still watch this space. Not that I'm interested in buying any of those. Maybe I don't have a taste for an art. Let me put it that way. But yeah, I don't see anything interest. I don't have any interest or anything interesting that I want to buy and jump onto NFTs. And most of the folks who are jumping onto NFTs is if I can quickly offload it to someone else. Yeah, I want to be in this space for long term and not really buy and dump kind of a stuff. And I haven't seen anything on NFTs on that yet. So yeah, I'll wait and watch. We'll see what happens on the NFT front. Anyone else bought NFTs or have dabbled in NFTs? Maybe created NFTs? Or any thoughts on NFTs? You have any stories to share on NFTs? All right, pretty quiet crowd. What else we want to talk about? Anything other specific stuff? Or other? We can look at some project otherwise, or overall we can look at the markets. So, who in the right mind want to own an A picture? No, I think so. I guess, Ramesh, I mean, again, it depends upon, because for an art, the beauty lies in the eyes of beholder. There are folks who will be willing to pay millions of dollars for a piece of work of an art for famous artist, and I can't make a head and tail out of it. Why the heck someone would pay, right? There was which one is I forgot the artist's name, but they got what banana picture. Right? I don't know, why would someone pay millions of dollars for a banana picture? But yeah, someone understands the value of it. There's a history behind it. There's a famous artist behind it. Yeah, I don't think the A picture really matters. I think what matters is what's the metadata, if I may use a little technical term. What's the metadata around that A picture? Who minted it? Is that a famous person? Now we can add it. Okay, which blockchain was it minted? When was it minted? Is it like one of those, Me Too or run of the mill NFT, or is it very special? Right. So, yeah, but outside of those very special stuff, which probably deserve its value because it can never happen again. But behind that, there are hundreds and thousands of new NFTs that have come in, which is just, I don't know. I just can't wrap my head around that one. So from a market perspective, like it looks like we had 2 days of some green, and we are back to what's happening in the rest of the stock market as well. Same story on the stock side. Most of the tech sector is, I think, except the energy and the commodities, most of the sector has been red. Financials, talk about financials, tech, consumer staples, geopolitical pressures. So we'll see what happens, how long this turmoil continues. Till then, wait and watch. I think even Jerome Powell couldn't save the markets. He confirmed that he's gonna do only 25% hike in March, not 50%. So that did prop up the markets a little bit yesterday, but today back to where we were. So, hey, but maybe it'll stay sideways if the situation doesn't worsen in Ukraine. But so far, we haven't seen too much impact on the US markets or what's happening in between Ukraine and Russia. But we'll see.
Can you talk about why you invested in NEO?
Why I invested in NEO? Sure. Not related to crypto, but let me answer that question. So NEO, I've been invested in NEO for quite some time. It's not that I've taken position this year. I've been in it for 3-4 years probably now, right? Because when NEO came out, I was looking for what are the companies in the EV space. And I came across this company, which was in China, which gives me also a way to diversify out of US. And then I started studying, NEO, started a small position and then used to read in terms of what's happening from their delivery perspective. What are they doing? Are they, how are they positioning themselves? So I liked from what's happening on their business. And believe me, the ride hasn't been smooth. I have seen, if I recall correctly, I think I maybe took my initial position when it used to be around $6. It's somewhere over here, or this is NEO, right? Are we? Yeah, somewhere here. Yeah, 3 years ago when it probably came out. I took my first positions around $6. Went all the way up to 10, 11, and then dropped to $2. And I've been been with it since then, adding positions, selling premium to reduce the cost basis, and had gone all the way to 60, back to where it is, like 20s. But I haven't, from a business perspective, they're still doing the right things. I mean, they're still considered as a luxury. They've been releasing their models. And they're done, which Tesla couldn't do in US, which is battery as a service. So I don't, and more importantly, I've reduced my cost basis to less than 0. So for me right now, I've recovered everything that I invested in NEO by selling premium on NEO. Right? So from that perspective, yeah, I don't have to pay anything. So I continue to stay invested, and as long as business do good, why should I panic? Especially if we have a tools to reduce our risk. Or your Shanghai friend said Neo a winner. Yeah, there we go. We have some. Yeah, I only look at what's Neo's done in terms of their reports, their earning reports. Yeah, there is a risk in it because of a China right now. All this downturn we are seeing in a lot of Chinese companies because of the sovereign risk. So position size is not too big. Anyway, I've recovered everything which I had put in, a lot more than what I put in. So it is house money plus. Yeah, I'll play with it, right? It's a lottery ticket for me right now. Goes to zero, fine. I've already made my money in Neo. But if it becomes, some decent goes the whole geopolitical between US, China, and all that thing is resolved, yeah, this could become one of good EV companies in China. There are two, there's Tesla in China, there's BYD, and there is Neo. Of course, there are others, Li Auto and Xpeng, but Neo is better than those. That's why I'm in Neo. So yeah, I haven't seen issues around their business. So I'll stay invested. Cool. What else? We also saw a little note around the adoption on the Bitcoin. Despite 40,000 price, sub 40,000 prices, the non-empty BTC wallet has reached across a new all-time high, which is a little surprising. While we're thinking it's a bear market, it's a winter on the crypto side, looks like the awareness around whole Bitcoin is increasing world over, and there are more and more either the wallets have been creating and maybe taking little smaller positions. That's okay, but the number says that the number of wallets with a positive BTC balance is now at 40 million. So irrespective of the crash in the Bitcoin that we have seen, there's some people or institutions who are still interested and are opening their positions in BTC. And we may not even see all these things in the news, right? But the beauty of this is it's a public blockchain and you can get all this information. So historically, the number of BTC addresses was growing from 2019 to 2020 until mid 2021, right? This, I guess, also judged with the price of the BTC. 2020 was when a lot of these institutional investors came in, started to look at on the BTC side, and then we saw like till mid of 2021, which is where probably Bitcoin hit its all-time high. The BTC wallet addresses continue to grow, and it grew to almost 35 million addresses. Now, even though after that, BTC has been in downturn, but it's still seeing more and more addresses being created and, holding some level of Bitcoin. It could be institutional, it could be retail, but good to see from an adoption perspective. Yeah, it's still way, way, way early, but nice to know that price is not the only factor. even though there's been a kind of a winter, but we still see Bitcoin continues to be adopted. Encouraging one. If we want to, look at a little macro level, what's happening. Day-to-day pricing, week-to-week pricing doesn't give us a real signal around what's happening in the trend level. Right? At a major from a, what's generally I want to focus on those hyper trends, things that will work out in next 10 years, 15 years. Yeah, I'm okay to hold on and stay invested on the crypto economy. And why me only? We see a lot of TradFis warming up. This is 2020, and they don't come in too much of in the news nowadays because the price is not going high, but that's okay. A lot of traditional financial companies continue to, get attracted towards the crypto. Today, actually, this didn't happen today. Looks like CNBC they were not the first one to capture this news. This actually came in a couple of days ago. So Citadel, again, these are some of the folks who have been very critical about this whole crypto economy and now changing their minds. We saw that in JP Morgan, and now JP Morgan is going and telling all their clients about the $10 billion worth of opportunities that exist, or billions of dollars worth of opportunities. I forgot what the number was. We reviewed that report in our previous meeting. The metaverse opportunities that exist. Right? Same is the case with Citadel. And Ken has been pretty humble in actually accepting that he hasn't been right on this call. So Ken Griffin, so Citadel, for those who don't know, is one of the biggest hedge funds, and also they are the biggest market makers in the traditional stock market. So any stock that I buy, sell, or any options I buy or sell, there's a large chance that is a Citadel who is settling that trade for me. Right? They are the top dog in the market making business when it comes to traditional finance, stocks, etc. Right? They already got that market capture. And they were earlier, the Citadel was earlier critic. The CEO had said that cryptocurrency is a jihadist call. It has been, last week he said crypto has been one of the greatest stories in finance over the course of last 15 years. Slowly, I think people are, especially a lot of these traditional finances are now warming up because they do see opportunities. Crypto is here. Solutions are being built. There are exchanges. There are market-making companies. Why would Citadel not want to, be the top dog even on the crypto market making? But they can't if they continue to have a harsh or negative sentiment around this economy. So now everyone's, they are seeing dollars in their eyes around the crypto. Again, doesn't matter where the Bitcoin is trading today, but some of the biggest Wall Street firms are now looking at and say, gosh, we can't be just sitting outside. We need to get in this. Right? It does say, I still have my skepticism, but there are hundreds and millions of people who will disagree with that. To that extent, we are trying to help institutions and investors solve their portfolio allocation problems. We have to give a serious consideration to being a market maker in crypto. Plain and simple. They don't want to miss out on the opportunities of making tons of money, because this economy, at least as they see, will continue to grow. So why worry what's happening in this chart for now? So that has been a major reversal in what, 4 years. And this is not the only TradFi we have seen. What else? The second one came from a European firm, Amundi Research. What did they say? So, oh, that's a big research report. Yeah, I don't think we'll go through all. Maybe later on, if we have a time, we go through all. But the started saying, as of today, cryptocurrency cannot be considered a form of money, as they are neither proven store of value nor recognized unit of account, even less as a universal means of payment. Okay, what else? Then they give a guide to, okay, most cryptocurrencies are comparable to high-tech assets, allowing the execution of smart contracts. Okay, there's some value. Stable coins are digital units of value that differ from existing forms of money and rely on a set of stabilization tools to minimize fluctuation in their price against a basket. But they do note that there's been increasingly diverse investor base. And of course, is it an asset without intrinsic value? Of course. So is the gold. And it was interesting. I don't know if you heard Jerome Powell's testimony during the hearing, but I saw it later on, wherein Jerome Powell came and told, which is the right thing, but generally a common investor won't put both these assets in the same basket. But Jerome Powell made a statement saying, around when he was asked about the digital currencies, what's your thought? He says, digital currencies are right now a vehicle for market speculation, just like gold. So coming from Fed chair, which is like both gold and the digital currencies, they're just, their purpose is right now speculation. Now, as an individual investor, most of the individual investors don't think gold as a speculator, right? Think gold as a safe haven. But yeah, is it speculative? Anything that does not have intrinsic value can be considered as a speculative instrument, gold or Bitcoin. Okay. So I said neither real money nor true assets. So what are they? It's a medium that can compete with gold in some of its functions. In this instance, the diversification of assets held in gold could give cryptocurrencies a very significant upside potential. I think this is the same story we have seen from multiple financial institutions around the use case of digital gold. A fully decentralized and disintermediated cryptocurrency system could enable the development of global payment systems that are faster, cheaper, more inclusive than the current payment system, which is pretty bullish. The exploitation is very energy intensive. This is always debatable. There are pros and there are thoughts on both sides of this whole energy stuff. This has been a horse beaten to death already. Yeah. So from being negative, at least this report also talks about what are the potential or could be the potential benefits of the crypto. So number 2. Number 3 this week. Now this is like TradFi Palooza this week. Number 3 is a Japanese wealth management fund. Come on. Don't hang on me. So a little more traditional, a little more conservative. Nomura funds. Now they're getting into looking at a digital assets, right? So what are they going to do? They have announced a new digital assets team to basically now start focusing on these NFTs or crypto assets. What else? Number 4, Charles Schwab. The boomer, what you may call as a boomer's brokerage firm, right? I don't really, all I mean to say that they are pretty conservative. I don't mean any disrespect for anyone of that from that generation. Generally, my generation is the one which you call as a forgotten generation. So in any case, so we saw Charles Schwab. Now they're prepping up their own crypto product. So these are all just happened in 2020, right? We just finished only 2 months, and probably I'm missing out some more announcements in this, right? Yeah, prior to that, we have seen BlackRock. 2 weeks ago, we talked about JP Morgan. And today we looked at like 4 new traditional finance jumping into these things. So in the end, I think overall, the adoption or the knowledge or information around this whole crypto economy is growing. There are areas which probably have gone up or had bubbled up too much too soon, will correct, no doubt about it. Things like NFTs, there's the whole crazy stuff that we have seen for over the last 18 months, will cool down, and I'm waiting for it before the real use cases start to emerge. But a lot of traditional finance now can no longer ignore this. Now this is becoming also, the whole digital disintermediation. Now it's becoming like a dinner table conversation. So I was at my friend's place last Saturday. This Saturday evening for dinner. He's into real estate brokerage. He runs a brokerage company. Sorry, not brokerage, real estate mortgage company. And he's seeing some chatter in the mortgage industry around smart contracts. So I had a pretty, I would say, an engaging conversation from someone who's running a real business. He's a business owner who's running a lending company. And we had some engaging conversations around what are these smart contracts. And, right now he's building up the whole software to automate a lot of these mortgage processes. And yeah, it started to make sense. So as this is not only the area for the tech folks, people who work in technology companies. My friend has nothing to do with, he is on the real estate mortgage or real estate mortgage lender. But in his business, folks are seeing the chat around this. He is concerned and asking, well, what are these smart contracts? How do these work? What potential do they have to disintermediate many of these companies? Right? How the mortgage deeds, can those be NFTized? Encouraging, I would have never expected to have these conversations with him, I would say a year ago, but now we are having it. So yeah, it'll become more and more commonplace as I would say, the knowledge or the information, grows around this whole crypto economy. Sam will say, how do you differentiate with the USA media bias? Yeah, that is tough. So the only way I focus on, Samuel, is this on this one is maybe, and that's why I like Twitter, because I follow specific people, which that is to me have given some unbiased information. And I also follow the others who have completely opposite bias than what I do have on certain subjects. So I don't pay too much. I don't watch CNN or Fox or CNBCs throughout the day. Yeah, if I'm looking at some news and I get it from CNBC, probably I'll talk about it here. But those yeah, I follow Twitter for more for my news and some some publications. But yeah, if it is biased, probably yeah, I may be the victim of that as well, unless I figure out, okay, what's the other side of the house. But today in this world, it's almost impossible to tell what am I reading. Is this the real one, or is this been a doctored information or a news? Doesn't matter which side of the house you are. It's almost impossible. So only belief that I can have is going back to either the individuals on which maybe I built up a trust because I've been following them for some time, or if I have some paid subscription, let's say, if I, again, that's to build up a trust, right? Rather than looking at any website, maybe I want to look at if Wall Street Journal has been unbiased in its reporting or not. But beyond that, it's a lot of stuff around. Many of these social medias.
What was unbiased? You said one thing was unbiased. What was that?
So now I'm saying it's very difficult to figure out what you're reading. Is it a doctored opinion or it is an unbiased opinion? So for me, I always have so I call myself as a cynical or optimist. Yeah, it's great, but I don't know if it is really true or not. We might have to double click on it. So what I would want to do is, that's why when I look at, let's say, any news on CNBC, yeah, this company stock is great. Okay, let's look at this earnings report. Right? Because that's legally the company will file in, and then figure out what does the earning report says. Or look at a CNBC. I mean, those are always hyped up to generate eyeballs. Right? Those are never, there may not be the real news, but you will see the headlines like the company stock tanked and it's down 5%. And when you go and look at the real earnings report, I'm like, it's okay. Maybe they missed, they earned $5 million less, nothing really bad. But if they just write it as, nothing bad on this company, yeah, small 5% drop, who is going to read that news? So most of these news, the channels, the idea is anyone who earns their money by selling eyeballs will always hype up the content. So yeah, we have to be careful. The only way I can do is follow, or over the period of time, once I have built up faith, maybe I'll see what those people have to say, or the sources of news or information on which maybe I built up the faith over time. That's the only way. So, because if you really look at it, based on what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, there are completely two different viewpoints that are being aired in Russia itself. One is the state media, which is showing completely different picture than what the rest of the, let's say, Western media is showing. And anyone watching any news in that area would know who to believe, because both sides have their own agenda. Right? So it's very difficult to figure out whom to believe. At the end, you will basically have to go back and say, okay, I've got to do my own study. Well, that is where I spend time and learn. I spend a lot of time trying to understand, trying to learn, trying to analyze company, not to be swayed by any opinion on CNBCs or Benzinga, etc. All that is information. Take it as an information. Don't convert it as a decision making immediately, unless you have done your own due diligence. That's all I was saying.
Vivek.
Yeah.
China's position blaming the U.S. was based on Thomas Friedman's column in the New York Times.
Yeah, so
Based on whose column?
Thomas Friedman. Hold on.
Friedman. Okay.
I'll copy and paste the tweet.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. If I recall, Thomas Friedman is the same person who wrote the book "The World Is Flat." Is the same guy? Thomas Friedman? Because that I read that book.
One
was it
comment to make.
Or what is the other world is, or was it the
Yeah,
other?
well, I might mention one comment to make, especially about the New York Times.
Oh, this is Tom. Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead,
and
Rob.
that is that I at first you have to make a distinction between the newsroom news, and then they have various individuals, and some of them probably would argue that the Earth is flat, and not only that it's flat, but it's actually bowl shaped.
Yeah,
But if you're careful to discriminate between is this an article from the newsroom versus they have all these different other kinds of people, correspondents and this and that, and I don't know how the rest of them grade out. In fact, I wanted to investigate that. But the newsroom stuff tends to be very accurate factually. However, they'll sort of shade sort of the opinion, but the facts, they're very carefully curated, I find.
Mhm.
And once in a while they make a mistake, and they'll often put a little note will come up the next when they discover that it's wrong. They'll actually say, sorry, this statement wasn't correct.
So I think
At least that's what I found, if it's useful to you.
yeah. So and I find similar thing on the Wall Street Journal in terms of from a business side. But even on Wall Street Journal, you will have these columnists or these individual who will write their opinions. But
Yeah, be
those
careful with the
opinions or those
Yeah,
columns are specific to those individuals. Those are not Wall Street Journal's opinions.
definitely.
Yeah, I think
Be careful of them.
yeah, people. I think Thomas Friedman. I have another book. Which one was that? Oh, yeah. So I haven't read this one yet, but I've read The World is Flat. The next one, I think The World is Hot, Flat, and Crowded. Okay, you can't see that. It's not focusing. So, but anyway, yeah, no, I have no time nowadays. Can't find enough time to read books, but I have one more of it. But this was a really good book. It really nailed down, and this is before, it really nailed down in terms of the whole globalization and how anyone could be working from anywhere, and that's why the world is flat. So if you haven't read this, probably now we are actually living in it. So it was in 2005. It was an interesting book to read. Cool. What else? Tax time. I know I'm not a tax advisor, and we shouldn't be giving any tax advice, but we can't run away from it. So as an individuals, I think we'll have to think through it. If we have engaged in any sort of a crypto transactions, especially selling, if you have only selling, I don't know how the NFTs will work out. I guess similar as any other, but it's a tax time. Please pay your taxes because government knows everything. By now, after having seen how the government or law enforcement have gone behind, Colonial Pipe hackers have gone behind, Bitfinex hackers have gone behind, ransomware attackers, it should now be pretty clear in everyone's mind that this is not opaque. Your crypto transactions are not opaque. So do the right thing. If you have made a gains, pay your taxes. And I was surprised to see that some of these TradFi / DeFi companies, which kind of are operating in both the straggling between these two areas, have actually started giving 1099. So, which is like, oh, this is good. Otherwise, it is to be so painful to figure out your own gains. But I don't think that the pure crypto exchanges are doing it. So I received a 1099 from Celsius. Right. So whether you receive 1099 or not, I think as per the tax laws, if you have made any gains, we got to report it. So do the right thing. It's a tax time is here now. That's a public service announcement.
Now, one thing I understand, a few of these, like Bitcoin, is now been determined by the government. They're considered to be property
Yes.
versus securities. And does that make a practical distinction on taxes?
So these are considered as property, means anytime if you have sold it, doesn't matter what did you sell it for. Maybe you, for example, let's say you sold Bitcoin to buy Tesla when Tesla was accepting Bitcoin. In our general purchase, we don't have to declare that, I spent so much US dollars. We don't have to declare to IRS. But if you've done any transaction, either selling for whatever purpose, we'll have to determine the cost basis of those Bitcoins. What was the cost of that Bitcoin? What did I sell? I sold it for to buy the Tesla. And if I made profits, those will be considered as a capital gains. Those will be considered as a profits. So that doesn't apply. That applies not just for buying a stuff. Say you converted your Bitcoin, you went to a DEX and converted your Bitcoin to Ethereum. That's a taxable transaction. Again, I'm not a CPA. My understanding is that's a taxable transaction.
By the way, I just point out now with property, with many kinds of properties, you can do what's called an exchange. So that it's not taxable. Like if you own real estate, it doesn't apply to your home, but if you buy investment real estate,
yes,
you can actually do an exchange. So you can avoid paying so there's no capital gains. You might have to pay taxes on the income that get from the property.
Yeah, you have some period on which you can do that. I think 10, 30 or there's some number, some form.
41, yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, there's something that you can do that exchange. But yeah, we don't have that on the crypto side. So if you converted your Bitcoin to Ethereum, that's a taxable transaction. You gotta be aware of.
Ethereum is a security, I believe.
No, so right now from a taxation perspective, so there are two different definitions, and this is where I think we are so far behind between our regulations. From a SEC perspective, when you're trying to do a fundraising, Ethereum is not considered, Ethereum is not considered as security. What am I saying? Yeah, so it is not a security. For now, from an all tax perspective, everything is considered as property for now from an IRS perspective. So if you sold Bitcoin to buy Ethereum, your Bitcoin, we have to kind of report what my cost basis of Bitcoin, what did I sell it for, because I bought or converted it to Ethereum. What was the dollar price at that point of a time? And that's a taxable transaction. Depending on you made money or lost money, that needs to be reported. So it's a pain on the back to do this. And that is why we are seeing VC money going into companies who are trying to solve this crypto tax problem. Eventually this need to be solved. Right now, what crypto economy is around $2 trillion, less than that. I think because the markets are down today, maybe 1.7 or wherever, but this problem will get solved. There are few companies who are already in this space and trying to help people determine what their tax liability is. And I guess that will continue to grow. But it's a tax time, so be aware. And that is one reason why I am just not comfortable in, kind of doing a regular trading on this one. It's too much of a headache in trying to now figure out at the end of it. Anyway, if my outlook on this is like 15 years later, this crypto is not for me, but for my next generation, how do we care where Bitcoin is right now? As long as the adoption continues to grow, things look good. I don't have to take a headaches of calculating taxes. But if you had done, yeah, it's a tax time. Get your notebooks out, get your transactions, download your transaction, figure out the cost basis and report it on your tax forms. All right, so that was more around some of the news that caught my eye. Now what we can do is maybe there's I also came across this, I think we didn't go through it last time. We can look at the Fidelity in their opinion around Bitcoin is a digital gold, which I think probably this has been overused. Or we can look at some couple of the other stuff. I came across and I haven't gone through this, but this seems to be an interesting project called Bridge Split. Anyone heard of Bridge Split? We'll bring that up. Not a monkey picture. Okay, some different. But this is the NFTs meet DeFis, right? Two highly volatile or two new areas now marrying together. So this seems to be a project in which looking at this says earn yield and get liquidity for non-fungible tokens via lending, indexes, fractionalization, derivatives, and more. Oh, got it. Okay. So I think this is trying to solve a problem, or not problem, but giving an opportunity, saying if you are holding NFTs, which now do have a lot of value. I mean, there are like $4 billion, $5 billion worth of NFT transactions have happened. OpenSea is valued at like $13 billion, which is an NFT exchange. So there is a lot of value which the world is seeing in these NFTs. So what happens if you hold NFTs? Hold and hope that it will go up in value, which is what any of these non-productive assets. The same is the thing with a Bitcoin. But when the DeFi came along, that was an opportunity for the Bitcoin holders or other crypto holders to make some money from their holdings of Bitcoin. You know, maybe I can lend it and get some interest, right? None existing for NFT. So I think this project, and maybe if it does, do let me know. But looks like this project is trying to bring in those DeFi concepts of lending, indexing, fractionalizations, or derivatives into NFTs. So let's see. Says we'll build infrastructure for tomorrow. DeFi and NFT exist in silos, which is true, causing $20 billion of value to sit in idle wallets. So $20 billion is probably the total amount of NFTs that have been bought over, the value of NFTs across all the blockchains. Today, NFTs are cornerstone of digital art, gaming, entertainment. Tomorrow, they will represent all unique values, representing ownership to an on-chain mortgage. There we go. This is what I want to look in NFTs beyond these pictures. What does Bridge Split do? Enables any unique asset to become liquid and yield generative via collateralized lending. Interesting. So means if I hold NFT, I can use that as a collateral. Indexes, creating indexes and more application for marketplaces to games benefit marketplaces to games that benefit from Bridge Split protocol. This looks unlock liquidity and yield for unique assets. That will be a feature of DeFi. Trade permissionless indexes of assets to access instant liquidity. Permissionless indexes of assets. Okay, so because these assets are so new, we don't have any indices built on that one yet. And now we don't want to trust a centralized company to build indices or tell us what's the value of this NFT could be. So it looks like they want to work on this one, which will be permissionless. Nft Collateralized Lending. Instantly take out a USDC loan using an NFT as a collateral to do whatever you want to do, to trade, to farm, to spend, maybe go and buy a Lambo, whatever. Fractionalization. Fractionalize a single NFT or an index to enable partial liquidity for owners and broader access to blue chips. Makes sense. If I'm owning one NFT, I don't want to lend everything onto one particular protocol. No, if I own one of those earlier crypto punks, Those may be selling at a few hundred Ethereums, maybe $1 million worth. I don't want to stake everything on one particular DeFi protocol. Maybe we can fractionalize the NFTs. Asset leasing. Elevate an in-game experience or generate yield by temporarily rendering idle NFTs. Ooh. So because everything is digital, so it looks like the possibilities are just limited by our own imagination. Find this as interesting. If I own an NFT of a starship in a Starship or Star Wars game, I can actually lend it to someone who is playing that game. Because what? I'm not a gamer. I just bought NFT because my friends told NFTs are the in thing. But I don't really like game. But now I can actually lease that as an asset and still make some yield. Liquidity SDK. Embed NFT indexes into any gaming, or they'll create an SDK. Means anyone who is creating a gaming can actually embed these functionalities by writing a code and using their protocol. Lastly is yield. Earn passive income while holding NFT or NFT backed assets by providing liquidity to NFT indexes. Got it. Project sounds to be interesting. I think maybe I'm going to keep an eye on this one. What's happening? How much money have they raised? Bridge split.
Keep an eye on the investment value of that company, or an eye on using it for borrowing against these unusual assets.
No, so this one, so they'll allow you to borrow against these NFTs. So bridge split, they've gone to 2 funding rounds. It's just on a seed round. Okay, so the last funding was on December 16th. Is a seed round, and Solana and CoinFund are the most recent investors. Solana, CoinFund, Coinbase Ventures, Jump Capital. Geez, I'm seeing this Jump Capital in multiple projects. Okay, not just this. Recently, which one we had? They had to pull in. And for those who don't know, Jump Capital is a big player. We talked about Citadel earlier as a market maker. Jump Capital is also one of the big market makers in US. And again, coming from a traditional sector. Jump is called Jump Securities. Market making. My knowledge was that they are actually a big market making firm. Jump Securities. Let me just. Oh, these are high. Yeah, 2 execute retail investor trades. Yep, these are Chicago-based company, and now an arm of them, this. Like Citadel now getting into it because they see Jump is jumping into this. Looks like they also have a Jump Capital, which is focused on the crypto side. And they first came in a big news. I wasn't aware that Jump Capital is actually big into crypto. It's only when that hack happened on that wormhole bridge, in which $360 million worth of ETH were created out of thin air. And then that's between the Solana and the ETH bridge. It was a Jump Capital who actually injected 360, 320, whatever that hack was. A recent wormhole, a jump trading. Wormhole recent hack. Was it it's about 320. Right. So because the company had the backing of Jump Capital, and they are a big TradFi, company. They got a backing of the Jump Securities. They were immediately able to add that $320 million into that smart contract or back into that protocol. to, yeah, so Jump Crypto, it replenishes $320 million stolen in the wormhole attack. Right? So to see, so these are like pretty decent investors that they have. Yeah, you have to see how this project works out, but I guess this may not be the only project which is trying to marry this whole NFTs and the DeFi ecosystem. Because if NFTs will become big, now given the fact that it stays on internet, ownership can be conclusively determined on internet, it's pretty easy to lend the stuff. Right? Imagine when the music NFTs, right? We also saw Snoop Dogg releasing its new album or as NFTs, which is a use case I find interesting. That is a real life use case, right? Now imagine if I buy that, and depending on what kind of a rights I have, if I have a reselling rights, or maybe I can lend it to someone if I have those rights. So it becomes much easier in the digital economy to lend it, to borrow it. And now if using those whole NFT tech, we can conclusively and cryptographically determine the ownership and the royalty income back to the real owner. There's a lot of stuff that can be done. So I guess Bridgesplit is not the only company. There could be others. Maybe we have to do some more study to figure out who all are in this space. But so lending and borrowing is not limited only to the normal, Bitcoins or Ethereum or the traditional crypto assets. Anything that has a value, right now, folks are finding value in NFTs. There are projects which will come in this. Pretty interesting one around what the Bridgesplit is trying to do. Anyone aware of any other projects similar to that? I thought maybe I'll see if they have some more information on this. There's so many windows open. I don't know which window was I on. So do they have more information around? Nope. Coming soon. Yield. Okay, so you can, yeah, this APY, not really interesting, but what else they have? Asset leasing. Pretty much, so this looks to be pretty much even in a pre-beta phase. Okay, geez. All right. Looks like it's a kind of a really pre-beta phase. But I find the concept interesting, which is what matters at this point of a time in terms of who is building solutions in crypto economy. What else we want to talk about? Any other project?
Well, I have a question.
Sure.
It's a little, first let me ask, is my voice coming through clearly? Because I had a bad microphone and I just switched. It tended to be very raspy. Is my voice clear now?
Yeah, your voice is okay.
Okay, good to know. Okay. Well, I still don't completely understand the value proposition for things like Bitcoin. Now, the one part of the value proposition, of course, is that if people have seen it going up, they'll buy it, on speculation, thinking it will continue. But there's also, at least it's claimed, there's a more fundamental value proposition on cryptocurrency in general. And I don't see that completely. If it could be used as currency, that implies a value. That's where a lot of the value of the dollar is. Someone will say, well, the dollar isn't worth anything looking from outer space, except that people demand it because they need to use it to buy things. So it gains, well, value as a currency, which I think is a major way that the dollar is actually backed up. Although that's getting into esoteric economics. But my question is, with these coins, which some of them are used as actual currency, but not that much. It seems people are claiming there's some sort of mystical value built into them. And can you explain that? Or
yeah, so I'm not going to talk about a lot of, all the other coins, but here are a few things that I've seen. And to me, it looks like, especially the big one, Bitcoin, has a different value in the eyes of different people. For some, it is like you said, it's a speculative instrument, just like gold is. It's a store of value. I just want to hold this. If more and more people become interested in this, the value of it will increase. Just like what happened with gold, just like what happened with diamond, right? Diamond, there is no intrinsic value in diamond. It's only De Beers that created value out of diamond, right?
Well, it does have some industrial value. There are cases where they use diamond as the hardest thing, for
Yeah, so
cutting and
very
stuff
small,
like
but that wouldn't justify the
I see it's
you
a
know,
partial to market. Yeah, I get it.
yeah, the value of the rock in a ring, right? But most of the value created through marketing by De Beers.
Yeah.
Right. Well, gold has got a lot more value, and from where I come from on the east part of the world, it's a lot more a sentimental, traditional store of value. If you see, Indians are the ones who buy most of the gold.
Mhm.
It's considered a store of value. Now, for the newer generation, I don't think my kids are interested in gold anyway. So whenever if we want to buy something, my wife, she still is interested. She said, I want to buy this gold jewelry. And we asked our daughter, do you want this earring? She said, I'm not interested. Right? Because for them, for the newer generation, buying a jewelry of gold or buying a jewelry of fake gold or any other metal is the same. They don't think as a store of value. Right? Now, they'll be more amenable to something if you're looking at a store of value, which is more digital. Right? Now, from a Bitcoin, it's got a similar properties. It's not easy to mine. Gold is not easy to mine. If it were, it will never ever, it won't retain it's a store of value, because then anyone and everyone can mint it. And then it, if you can generate it out of thin air or can mint it easily, then it will not retain its high value. So from that perspective, some consider Bitcoin as a store of value. I can't say and talk about a lot of other shit coins. I shouldn't use the word shit. I mean, there are a lot of other, every other have their own properties or their own value propositions. Some consider Bitcoin as a utility token, right? It's like, hey, if I were to consider this, if I were to use this particular highway, a faster highway, I need to pay a toll, right? Now, when I'm talking about Bitcoin, here I'm talking about a Bitcoin as a payment network, not really the Bitcoin as an asset, right? So today, the big payment networks that exist in the world, Visa, MasterCard, are the big private payment networks, right? Then you got a Western Union, but they'll like fleece you. Right? Then you got this old archaic network like ACH networks, which will take 3 days to transfer money. If you consider Bitcoin, the Lightning network, which is being built upon, which is a decentralized, has never gone down. Fed network went down 6 times in the last 4 years, but the Bitcoin network has never gone down. If you consider
what went down 4 times? What one was that?
So the Fed had its own network connecting various banks. It has gone down multiple times. So if you think that, hey, now I have a decentralized network that can never be closed because it's decentralized, can't be shut down, has never gone down. I agree, today it is slow, but with the advent and the progress happening on the Lightning network, if you can transact on that in a sub-second way, which is as fast as, let's say, Visa, MasterCard, maybe there's a value in that as a payment network. And I don't even have to hold Bitcoin, but I want to, if I'm a traditional business and I want to sell someone to, to a buyer in Japan, instead of using Visa or any other more expensive network, I might want to use this Bitcoin payment network, but I have to pay a fee. The fee will be paid in a BTC, which is okay. I'm not holding it. I like use my traditional currency, pay the fee in BTC, convert it BTC, pay it. My buyer gets the goods, I get my own traditional currency. I have nothing to do with the crypto in here. But for those, if for your use case on the Bitcoin is it could be the best robust payment network in the world, it's a utility token. So that's what I'm saying. Bitcoin could be different for different ones, right?
Also, the self-sovereign asset is really important too, right? Some people like that because if you manage your private seed phrase, private keys correctly, then it's completely self-sovereign, right? Like nobody can take it away from you. Nobody can block it. There's no way that they can block it physically, like technologically, right? It can't be shut down. It doesn't even need the internet to work, strictly speaking. So it really is that's the value. And it's a lot of people say, hey, it doesn't exist. It's like gold is physically exists. To me, physically existing is actually a con, not a pro, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you're trying to run away. How are you going to lug around like $1 million worth of gold where you just have the seed phrase and you're out of the country with a few $1 million, right? So that's, to me, that not having a physical form is actually good, right? And verifiable at the same time. That's like amazing, right?
It's difficult for us to understand the value, especially these, wherein I can self-custody it and no one can steal it from me, especially sitting in a developed world. Go and let's talk to the people who have to flee their countries. And they are not, if you are rich in your country, but you flee your country, you're back to paupers, right? Because you lost everything that you had because it was in a physical form. If you had a cash, or if you had, let's say, gold or silver or anything, you just left it there. Barely you escaped with your life. And then you start from scratch. Whereas if you have had this self-custody, which cannot be taken away from you, all you need to keep is keep the seed phrase in your mind, and wherever you go, it is with you. So that's a store of value that cannot be taken away from you. Now, some sees it as a currency. I know in US, it's not treated as a currency. At least we have one country which is treating it as a currency. You can pay your taxes in it. You can transact in it. So it's considered currency if you can pay taxes, right? That's one big definition. If you can pay taxes, then it's considered currency. So we have one small country, not a big one, but at least there's a small one which is doing this experiment. But there are a lot of merchants in Europe who will accept Bitcoin as a currency because at least on those countries, I mean, this could also become more usable as a currency if the IRS can clarify the laws, don't consider as a property. But in a lot of European countries, you can go and actually buy a coffee with your Bitcoin because you don't have to track anything spent because it's not considered as a property. Okay? So if coming from that angle, yeah, it is a currency. So it is difficult to explain the value proposition because it could mean different things in a different use cases. So, and for some, it is just like a gambling chip within, the biggest odds. I'll just buy this. And I think it has got, I lose whatever I have bought it in, but it's got a huge upside potential, right? So it could be just a gambling chip that you want to hold on. So now, depending on what the narrative is, what you think could be working out, or what you have studied or seen around the world, you could be, you can pick up whatever narrative works for you. So I see different use cases, especially the one which is a self-custody is very near and dear to me. Because my forefathers were displaced refugees and we have gone through the whole cycle. So like, gosh, why didn't I have a Bitcoin at that point of a time? When I was a kid, my grandma used to tell us, nighttime stories. And one of my favorite stories was how my great grandpas, they were one of the richest landlords in a country. And when we got displaced, It was like completely starting scratch from zero. We couldn't bring anything with us.
Where was that?
Absolutely nothing. And then, we started completely from scratch. So you may be very rich right now, but the regime changes, the situation changes. And my great grandfather, they had to fled the country back to zero, had to start everything from square. So that use case is very new to me, because at least not my family, but at least my dad and my grandfather, they have gone through this. So I understand, okay, if Bitcoin had existed then, we didn't have to start from scratch.
Yeah, like imagine telling them that we have the system now, but we still have people that don't fully appreciate it. It'd be like, what? Right? Like I wish we had it back then. Right? So it's really like
Yeah, go ahead,
sorry?
Chris.
I did have another Aetna insurance, but I thought this was the newer one.
Sorry. Oh, okay. So looks like we got we caught in a double talk. Some
All right.
cross talks happening. Okay, let me mute. Chris.
Not right, CV.
Okay.
Yeah, this is really something that we've never seen this kind of technology before, right? We were never able to solve the consensus problem without a trusted third party, right? So for the first time in history, we've solved the consensus problem without a trusted third party, right? Which has pretty much enabled this technology. And it's funny how everybody is like, I could just fork the code and create another currency.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you try it? Go ahead and do it and see what happens. It's not going to have any liquidity. And the reason Bitcoin has liquidity is because it has gone past that threshold, right? It has
Correct.
pretty wide market acceptance, and that's where liquidity comes in. And people underestimate how important liquidity is, right? And they think they can just go out and create a new currency and call it a day, right?
It's a network effect, right? Let's say if Facebook open source its code, you're not gonna jump into get another Facebook immediately. Because it's exactly a network effect. People have adopted it, they moved on to it. It's not the Facebook value is not in the code. Even if they open source their code, any other company is not going to get the same value in the marketplace what Facebook has gotten. That's exactly what I see in terms of at least the Bitcoin stuff. And that is why I'm very skeptical of all these new coins coming in suddenly saying, okay, we're going to be hey, what's special about Bitcoin? I can just copy the code and I can run my own. Come on, the value is not just in the code. The value is in the network. The value is is in the longevity and how it has grown over the years. That is values in the hash power that has gone behind this. And that is very, very difficult to replace. Yeah, coming back to what's the value proposition. So Rob, we talked about 4 or 5 different value propositions. You can pick up whichever you or anyone you can identify with. For me, my biggest one was when I started to read about Bitcoin and all that, I was taken back into my childhood. Like, I wish Bitcoin would have existed, and then I would have, by this time, maybe I would have been owning my own island. Yeah. So yeah, that was my reason why I got attracted towards this. And then slowly started discovering about the payment network and Lightning Network and what are the advancement that's happening there. I mean, even if both parties at the end of the Lightning Network have nothing to do with the crypto, they can still use this network just to transfer the value. And both the folks will basically trade in their own fiat. That's perfectly okay. It's just a network which has never gone down, pretty fast, and most importantly, very, very cheap. And you're not bound by on the whims and fancies of Visa's headquarters in Foster City or MasterCard or of a particular government. It's always on network. So there will be some value in it. I think we have yet to realize that value. So all this hype, etc., will go in. That's why it's a long-term game. So I'll wait for 10 years.
Man, when you self-custody, it absolutely feels like your money. It's like that feeling you can't replicate it with banks. It's like when you go to a bank, you feel like you're asking for permission every time you're doing something, right? It doesn't feel like it's your money, like no matter what you do, right? It's like, oh, can I make a transfer? And it takes like a week and no reason why. They just take their time, right?
So
And they're not open on Sundays or something, or they don't do it in the middle of the night. It doesn't feel like it's your money, right? It's like you're always asking somebody else for permission to.
So let me tell you an interesting one, and there's a real one which me and my brother-in-law, we went through that discussion. So my brother-in-law, he's in London. So and he has to receive some payment from someone in US, and they're trying to figure out how they can pay him in London. He told he had to use PayPal, but PayPal charges like a ridiculous amount of a fee. First of all, it's 3.5% as a fee. Then you have that currency conversion. So he told me it's very expensive. How do you transfer money from US to this? So I said, okay, let me try it from my bank accounts. Okay. And I asked him, how do you got your US bank account number? He gave me US bank account number. So it looks like there's a company called TransferWise. That's a company which could enable the people who are the customers who are outside of US. So you open an account with TransferWise. TransferWise will have an account with one of the US banks. And if I transfer money to that account, TransferWise that account, they know it has to go to my brother-in-law. So that's how the whole relationship works. Because I was surprised, say, how do you get a US account number? So he said, that's how he got it. I'm like, okay, let me try. I tried adding that bank on that account on my banking application. One bank completely rejected it because that's a 16-digit. It doesn't even recognize this as an account number. I'm like, what? I went and looked at the routing number. It says it's an Everbank. There's a bank called Everbank. I'm like, it's an Everbank routing number. So, but it's a 16-digit number, which one of my bank accounts says it's not valid. Okay, I went to another one, and there I was able to add it. Great, I added it, and then it says, okay, you have to do this challenge deposit, micro deposit, right? So if first time you're adding it, you have to, and if it is a kind of this non traditional bank account, you have to clarify that you are the owner. Then you have to prove that you are the owner. So they'll run through the process of challenge deposits. So I told my brother-in-law, I'm like, you will get 2 deposits, each less than $1. You have to tell me the amounts. He said, okay. Took 2 days to go through that. He gave me the amounts. Then I added it in. The account was added as a payee. Right? Then I told him, I'll go now transfer $10. See if you get it. Then I initiated an ACH transfer of $10. It took 3 days for ACH to finish. Right? So overall, from the day when we started conversation and when I took my first step, it took me almost 6 days to transfer. I'm like, dude, I can just maybe take a flight and come over to London. Tell me if that's the case. Or I asked him, gosh, you should just start accepting in Bitcoin or any crypto assets. I'll just do it in like 10 minutes. It took us 6 days to do all this stuff. And we are dependent, you are dependent on TransferWise. I'm dependent on all this crap. It would have been so easy if we could just, if it would have been just a crypto payments, right? And this is like 2 weeks ago. I've gone through, it's such a painful stuff.
Yeah, it boggles my mind how difficult it is for traditional finance to do transfers sometimes. I mean, a transfer is supposed to be the easiest operation in a financial system. If they can't even get that right, how can they do anything else, right? Like that's supposed to be the easiest thing to do, like a transfer, right?
I have one question. I'm not trying to poke holes through it, but I'm just curious. They have you do the trial. They do these micro deposits, mainly basically to test to make sure that you haven't made it, protects you in case you make a mistake, and putting in the bank account number.
Yeah.
But when you're doing one of these transfers with, through what is it, through the Flash network on Bitcoin or whatever that is there some check or for the number, or do you write in the number, and then if you get that wrong, is that money gone? And is there any kind of
There is some checksum, but for the most part, yes, you need to have the right address. Otherwise, your money is gone. So when you self-sovereignty does require you to be responsible, right? So that goes in hand. Like, so yes, if you make a mistake, it's gone. So
Yeah,
in crypto, just don't make mistakes. That's
Yeah.
bottom line.
I wire funds pretty frequently, and I'm very careful. It's fairly substantial, a few tens of thousands of dollars, for different projects. And I'm a careful guy. First, I'm an engineer, but I'm even more careful than usual engineer. But once in a while, I make a mistake. The bank said, "Oops, these numbers don't match. You made a mistake." And I said, "What? No, I triple checked that." And then, lo and behold, I made a mistake. I did everything I could to be careful. And bam. But it was no problem. They picked it up, and it was corrected. But I wonder if I did it through this Lightning network or something.
You can use tools to simulate transactions. Like on Ethereum, you can use Tenderly to simulate a transfer without actually doing the transfer. So you can check if things look okay after. You have to be fairly technical to be able to use that tool, but it does exist, right? So maybe
James,
someday we'll.
So this is one, yes, because irrespective of how much ever, you and I, we are like so enthusiastic about this self-custody. But when I talk to people who are outside of this, the worst thing, the fear is a self-custody. Not everyone is comfortable and taking ownership of their own account, whether it comes to the financial investment or whether it comes to your own account. The ownership is a difficult thing to hold on to it, right? And I mean, a lot of people will have a question on what if I misplace the password? If it's gone forever. Gosh, I don't want it. I want someone else to take the responsibility. And if they're ready to charge me for it, it's okay. So not everyone is comfortable in taking that ownership, saying, now it's up to me how best I'm able to manage, right? So that's one part. But I do see there will be solutions to it. Right. For example, we have this multi-sig in which multi-sig have started to also will creep into, will be available for retail investors. I think there are a few Koti or some projects who allow even the retail investor to do the multi-sig, right? Say if I misplace my key, but I have my key with my another financial advisor or with my spouse, yeah, it's still okay. Today, the biggest pushback, I can say it because my wife is not around. The biggest pushback that I have on my crypto investment is if I, if I forget or if I come under the bus, is that money gone? For the traditional finance, you can go through the court. If my wife is a nominee, she can get the money, right? Because she's a nominee. There is a process. On the crypto side, tomorrow I come under the bus, there's no way someone can recover that. So I think these problems will have to be solved. My opinion is solutions will be built on it. For it to adopt to get more adoption, we will have to solve and make this whole concept of a custody little easier. And that's the biggest pushback I get from my family, saying, why are you investing in this? I'm like, this is the best asset. Doesn't matter if tomorrow anything happens to us, it's gone to zero. I'm like, that is true.
So that's true, right? So everybody wants like the self-sovereign thing. Like when they hear this, they're like, yeah, awesome, man. I want to have my own, I want to own my own assets. But then they don't know what that entails, right? They don't know what that really means is you're on your own, essentially, right? But yeah, with the right amount of education and with the right set of tools, you can really minimize these hiccups, right? And also you can spread your assets across multiple wallets if you want, right? So if you don't trust that you're going to be able to keep all of your wallets like secure or something. So yeah, I mean,
so I think yes, this problem will be solved. I'm sure there are projects which are working on, in which, okay, you hold one key, your financial advisor hold one key, maybe especially with the Bitcoin, with the Taproot upgrade, with more scripting, we'll have some of these solutions coming in. I mean, this is a very common question. I get it when I talk with my friends around this. They say, what if I forget it? Can anyone else recover this? Nope, not happening. So like, okay, I don't want to touch it, because a lot of folks don't have a faith on themselves. And that's the reason why all this financial advisor, industry is also booming on, right? Not everyone is comfortable managing money, which is okay. It's not everyone's cup of tea. But we have to build, if this industry really has to grow, I know as a libertarian, you may not hate that, okay, I need to put one person on which I'm dependent, but I think there are a lot of people who want that dependency. It gives them peace of mind. Some people can't sleep well thinking they are responsible for everything. It's too much of a responsibility.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Everybody's a libertarian until they hear the responsibility part.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
All right. I guess, we already hit 8 o'clock.
I might mention one partial solution to the bus problem and concern if you get run over, and how does your wife get the money? You could take the key codes, crack them in half, and then get a bunch of friends and then that you trust, and have them keep half of it. So now they can't get into it, but then, you tell your wife they have it, and upon your death, so maybe give half of
This
the
whole
key.
process of that, you have to do this key, you have to regenerate wallet and do all this. It works for us, not for everyone who is not, comfortable with the tech. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You and I, we are comfortable with the tech. We can, use the mnemonics and, go to and create a wallet and then add it and recover it. It's a huge problem or a big hurdle to adoption. Even if you have to, broach this topic, this is the process you have to go through it. It's a big problem. And at the end of the day, if you are looking it to be adopted by everyone, it has to be very, very easy for anyone to use. And I'm sure the solutions will come in. It's not here today, it will come in. I mean, the way to connect to internet 30 years ago was through telnet and all that stuff, right? Then we got browsers in. Became easier to connect and browse. I don't have to go through black window with green characters. Now I got a browser who will allow me to, browse the internet. And then we started getting applications on top of it. So we'll reach there. A lot more work to be done. And I'm hopeful these things will happen if this really has to grow. And right now, I don't have any doubt around it. At least the advancements and the adoptions and a lot of industry moving into this. A lot of VC money is getting into this, So we are seeing a flow of VC money. We are seeing a talent moving into crypto. So still hopeful. Sorry, Sam.
Vivek,
Yeah.
back in 2005, I was taking an MBA course, and this guy is an expert in accounting at I can't remember the name of the college. Well, he said that the U.S. is backwards using the checking system. This was 2004.
Yeah, I don't know. But one thing is sure, US is way backwards in terms of the payments and the money transfer systems. We have very archaic systems still. The rest of the
I think
world,
they missed a boat. I think they missed a boat on modernizing it because of all politics and stuff. So now they're maybe they're using the crypto thing to play catch up. I don't know. Right?
I don't know. Yeah,
James, we're way behind.
we are way behind. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
even in and to that matter, I mean, I don't blame just the politicians, right? So once we were in the forefront of setting up with all these payment networks and ACH, electronic transfer, now you got all that legacy system. Now your new systems coming in, mobile systems coming in. There's a lot of investment that has already gone in. There are players who are already in that who will try to resist it. Some of the countries like developing countries like India, China
Today?
didn't
Someone
have
was here earlier. I need food though.
Alrighty. I'll have to mute Robert.
Oops, I'm sorry.
So a lot of countries like India and China who didn't have that legacy system, they directly jumped onto the mobile payments. They didn't have anything that they had to rip and replace, right? It's like if there's an old city, it is difficult to modernize that old city because means you'll have to break down the existing buildings. You have to break, you'll have to reconfigure the lanes that have already been created, right? But if it's a blank, you can set up this, start from scratch and build the best city in the world. So
Vivek, China did have Visa, MasterCard, but the thing was, because I can tell you how I used to buy my plane tickets or buy stuff off Amazon.cn. First, it would be COD. Yeah, then it would be a credit card, and then it would be, it's just they had it before, but it's very easily canceled. That's what you could do in authoritarian government.
Yeah. So one is on the China side, yes, authoritarian government, they can mandate to modernize. But in any case, what was done with the Alipay and WeChat payment through WeChat was amazing.
Definitely.
But even if I'm looking
Alipay had to pay a lot to get adoption. I saw it. If you use Alipay at a shopping mall, you get big discounts.
Yeah.
So they definitely paid their way into society.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, every company has to do a cost to acquire, right? But I'm one of my friend. He was recently came back from India. I was talking like, gosh, it has become so more advanced in terms of mobile payment. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's if you're not been to developing country, you'll have something called a street hawkers. Means they'll have a push carts which they'll basically hold it on the street and they'll be selling their wares on the street. And he says every damn street hawker has got a QR code. Earlier the only other mode of payment was the cash because they don't have a credit card terminals and all that. So they jump from just accepting cash to completely mobile payments through the Paytm, in which
China never went through the period of personal checks. Actually, it's funny because my wife had never seen a personal check before she came to the US. She's like, what is this? Right? So China was predominantly cash and then credit cards and then just mobile, right? So they never had personal checks. Like that was never
India was predominantly cash, then came credit card. Still not everyone used credit card. My dad, he doesn't have a credit card. I don't think whether my brother even uses credit card or not. He probably have one because I forced him. You should take it. It is easier. But I think he has a debit card. I don't think he has a credit card. He says, I have an ATM card. That's good enough. So but that's from a convenience that he can withdraw cash anywhere. But I told him, then he realized that ATM card can also work like the credit card. So it doesn't have to carry the cash. But now suddenly they moved into mobile payment. He said, no, I don't have to carry anything. I'll just go and everyone has got a QR code. I can just pay. Like, wow, that's way faster than in the US. I have to, in the US not everyone, it's still some places you can't just pay through QR code. You'll have to use a credit card or cash. So
James, I don't understand it though, that people, beggars or people with small businesses, they accept QR codes, but I don't have a bank account, so they probably don't have a bank account either. But I don't have a bank account, so I can't open up a Alipay or WePay. Do you know how they do that?
Without people without bank accounts?
Yeah. These beggars.
Oh, beggars. Well, first of all, are they real beggars? Some beggars in China, they're just beggars because they want to do it. It's not like they're actually poor, right?
I've heard of
But
stories of many rich beggars in India, multi-millionaire
but
beggars.
here's the thing, right? Like I think Alipay may allow you to. I could be wrong. Like there's a lot of these mobile payment providers that for smaller amounts they don't actually require you to link up to a bank account, right? Unless it's like a large transfer or something. But yeah, I mean, but from the looks of it, I mean, last time I went back, I definitely I was using cash and people were looking at me funny, right? Like so.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
And if you know every merchant is actually accepting the payments online, then your need for actually converting into bank account itself changes, right? So if I sold something, I got payment onto my, in India, it's a Paytm. I got a payment to Paytm. I go and I need to buy some fruit from a street vendor. I just pay through the Paytm. I don't have to convert or move it to my bank account or do anything like that. Right? As long as if the folks I deal with to live my life, they all have these Paytm accounts, we can just move around on that itself. You know, it's equivalent to whatever Alipay or VPay. I think in India, Paytm is the most famous, but now even the government of India, they also have their own, bring up their own payment system. So net is when I heard from my friend who just returned a month ago, I'm like, wow, I think I need to start studying the whole payment network and payment companies in India rather than in US, because in the US, we are far behind. Especially that's what I feel.
Yeah, and it seems like people in the U.S. are sometimes not quick to like they don't like, not everybody likes change, I guess, right? So they stick to whatever works for them. And if it works and if it's too costly to change, they just kind of stay put, right? So there's definitely a lot of legacy baggage that needs to be refactored, and we all know it's harder to refactor legacy garbage than to
start,
just
you know,
go
to
start from scratch. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Cool. It's already 8:13. So thanks for staying along. We are way over time to have dinner, and I don't want to hold you guys for long. And yeah, Ramesh, you're still on, which is like 11 o'clock your time. Really appreciate you staying so late. Cool.
Now, one comment I have for the guy that was asking, he said he didn't have a bank account. Now I haven't actually done it, but I understand with Coinbase, you can actually earn, money that's not just a trivial amount of money, like, they pay you to read these articles and answer some questions. And
no, they pay you in some of those coins, which are like someday they may become some worth. So those are, I think those are the sponsored material. Some of these new projects will tie up with the Coinbase and give you content. So if you've gone through that content and maybe answer some questions, you get those tokens. If those tokens become of some value later on, it's great. Otherwise, it stays basically depending on the value of token. That Coinbase won't give you dollars or anything. So,
well, somebody on YouTube actually did that, and they were able to earn like $100 or $200. Not by trading, but just by doing these exercises. Maybe it's not true. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of
traded the coins, and he was able to make like a couple $1,000, but that was a trading. Yeah. But he went from zero money. You didn't have to put in any money in there.
Yeah, so you don't have to put in. So you open an account in Coinbase.com, and then there are articles, or I think like there's the information about different projects, different tokens. You read through those, answer questions, you will get those tokens. If you do enough, each, let's say if some token is maybe worth $1 and you get one token out of it, you do for 100 projects, you can make that. Mm-hmm. Cool.
It seems he said it came out to being, he was actually able to earn about $20 an hour doing that. So of course he might have more background and obviously had a little more background. But actually he said he had one of his aides do that. He was able to get $20 an hour before, just by doing that. And then after that, he did the trading and made more money. So just if that's helpful to the guy, I can't remember who it was that was asking.
By the
Said he
way,
didn't have a bank account.
latest news I heard, babysitting rates have gone really high. So babysitters are making like $25 per hour in US, which is like
I'm sorry, what's making 35 an hour?
$25 per an hour, up to $25 per an hour. Babysitters.
Oh, babysitters. Yeah, no, there
And
are.
if you're vaccinated, you can make more. And if you can
Wow.
also teach, you can make some decent amount, like $50, $60 per hour babysitting. We talk about labor shortage here.
I can teach crypto. Just kidding.
They won't call you next time. All right, guys.
Cool.
Good talking to you all.
Yeah, good night.
All right, see you guys.
Some good
Bye.
discussions. Thank you.